Yes. So welcome to the scribing workshop. It's going to be pretty informal, but we are recording it for other individuals. The key point, and we're going to take this recording and we'll post it up on a page that has links to all the different IRC resources, as well as this video for people who want to learn to scribe. So thank you very much for requesting it. What I'd like to basically do is walk you through scribing. We are in the channel pound scribing because it's not a channel that's used anywhere else. And so I'm going to set up a meeting. So you can also see that. I plan on spending the first little bit going over scribing, but several people had also requested a rundown of how to set up and run a meeting. So I will spend the second half of the meeting on that for anyone who wants to stay. But as far as scribing goes, um, I think I have to have the meeting set up. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And so there are bots in IRC that you need to invite when you're starting a meeting, and that's what ties in with the scribing. Our scribes are incredibly important because it's pretty much impossible for us to really facilitate a meeting, for one person to facilitate a meeting and scribe at the same time. And that's why if you've been in meetings and we don't start until we have our scribe up and running, that's the reason. And so just in advance, thank you very much for any time you volunteer to scribe. We very much appreciate it. Okay, so once the meeting is set up, and usually the facilitator or the chair is going to be the person to do that, then anyone can claim scribe at any time. And once they do that, then what they write becomes the record, the official record for that meeting. Some people scribe everything that is said. That's just how they process the information. Some people write consolidated summaries. Some people write very short statements. There is no preference. There's no strong preference on how you approach scribing. We just need to have a record of what the general meeting was about and the points were about. And so what I like to do is go ahead and go down the list and have everybody try scribing, try claiming scribe, and then try scribing while we talk. And so I'm going to go down alphabetically, if that's all right, and have Brian, if you will take scribe, and you do that by typing the word scribe and colon, and then type your name. So I'll take it first. And then if you want to shorten the typing process, if you write scribe colon BR and then hit tab, it will autofill your name in and then hit enter. So if you'll go ahead and take that, perfect. Now, when you actually scribe, you're going to write the person's name talking. So in this case, it is me. So type RA and tab, and you're going to get my name. And this is an advantage. If you get Rain first, you can hit tab a second time, and you should get mine. And then you can hit colon, and then just write something about what I'm saying and hit enter. Perfect. Now, if I keep talking after you've hit enter, the next thing to do is put dot, dot, dot. So 3 dots in a row. And then you can keep saying that I'm saying something. So in this case, I'm explaining about the parentheses. Yep. So Chuck is putting an example, write something about what I'm saying. But actually, I think, Chuck, the dot, dot, dot is supposed to be in the next line.
Oops, thank you.
So if you want to demonstrate that briefly, that would be perfect. And then, yes, there's another line. And as long as that dot, 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 and Brian, you would want to put that dot, dot, dot in front of explaining something more right there. As long as those dot, dot, dots are there, people reading it know it's the same person talking. So when Chuck came in and spoke, you would then put Chuck colon, but again, he has that little underline. So CHU and tab is going to get his exact name in IRC, colon, and then write a little bit more information. So, yep, perfect. And then, yep. So does that seem, at least Brian, for you, so far fairly comfortable? Because I'll switch to someone else and pick on them if so.
Yeah, no, that's very helpful.
Okay, excellent. Chris, are you here to practice or just to listen?
I can practice.
I was going to say you scribe a lot, so if you want to chime in, actually, what I'll say is
You can skip.
Okay.
I'll listen.
All right. Juanita, why don't you go ahead and take scribe then? So type scribe : space and then JA and tab, and that will save your hands some typing. And then hit enter. Perfect. And then I'm going to continue talking, and I'm going to encourage Chuck and Chris to jump in here a little, or if people have questions, and just go ahead and try typing what we're saying. So Chuck has put himself on queue. We'll get to queue management in a bit. Go ahead.
Okay. So I was going to, a question for you is, are you going to get into what is not a requirement at all, but spelling corrections later on?
I was going to get into corrections, but I was going to have everybody try scribing first.
Okay, then we'll get, this is just so that you had me saying something.
Yes, thank you.
I have conveniently misspelled a word.
So Regina, you took scribe, so go ahead and try that. Juanita, it looks like you've got it. And I'm just coming over here and seeing if we picked up anybody else. It doesn't look like it. So Regina, go ahead and hit start typing either my name or say, something that Chuck said, hit tab or hit colon, sorry, and then type a little bit more and hit enter. Okay, so Regina, for scribing, because you took as soon as you put scribe : you actually took on scribe. So if I'm going to talk about how to say something like that in a moment, but can you just try putting my name in? So type like RAC and tab, and then colon, and then some summary of what I just said, or make something up is also just fine. And if you have a question, feel free to just jump in and ask. So I don't want you to switch me to scribe. I want you to go ahead and continue to scribe, Regina. So I'm probably not explaining this well, but type RA and then hit tab, or RAC and hit tab, and that should bring up my name. And then add a colon and a space, and then you would type what I'm saying. So in this case, just type what I'm saying or something like that.
Rochelle, just so that you know, for me, when I do the tab, it adds the colon automatically.
Does it? That's rather nice of it. Ignore my addition of colon. Thank you, Chuck. Regina, do you have audio? Because I'm feeling like you might be running into a challenge, and I'd like to talk you through it. You are muted if you're talking.
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm trying. You said that I type ACK or
sure. So right now you have scribe. So when you took scribe, you become responsible for writing what's going on.
Actually, she doesn't have scribe. She changed it to you.
Oh, to me. Well, except that's not my name, so nobody has scribe right now.
Oh, okay.
So I'm putting you back in. And so scribe : now you are scribe, so you have the official transcript for this. And thank you for pointing that out, Chuck. Now you would write what is being talked about. So you would type my name, and you can just type it, RACHAEL : or you could start typing it and then hit tab.
Oh, tab, not return.
Not return. Nope, the tab key is going to autofill for you.
Oh, okay.
And that's why we wanted to practice. It's so much easier when you actually can get hands-on safely in a space to do this.
Okay, so I'm hitting tab key,
Okay.
and
Then you would type what we're talking about. So in this case, just write, you know, what we're talking about as the words and then hit enter.
what with your name?
My name should start it. So it should look like, and I'll type it in. No, thank you, Chuck. Something like that. Yep. Or learning. And then if I kept talking, you would put ... So 3 dots in a row. And then then whatever else I was saying, just like Chuck put in there if I kept talking. And then Chuck, can you say something? And when Chuck starts talking, you would put Chuck as the beginning with a colon and then continue typing what he says. So I'm turning it over to you, Chuck.
And I'm going to say how much, Regina, I appreciate your efforts to learn about scribing.
Thank you.
You know, we really do. Our need for scribes is great. So thank you so much for that.
That's fine.
Okay. Rain, did you want to go ahead and try taking scribe and trying that out for a minute? Perfect. And then just writing whatever I'm saying or whatever.
That's
great.
That was perfect.
It was. All right. So any questions about kind of just the basics? I mean, this is the most fundamental part of scribing is, thank you, is just claiming the scribe and then typing the first person's name and then continuing what they're saying as you go.
Can I try real quick?
Absolutely, Karen. I apologize. I skipped you. I did not mean
okay.
to. Thank you for jumping in. Fantastic. So I appreciate you jumping into practice.
For those of us who are not the fastest typers, you know, how do we catch up if we get behind?
You can ask people to pause, and that's a great question. As I'll ask Chuck to weigh in on this too while Karen's practicing. But my perspective from a chair and facilitator standpoint is the scribe has a good amount of control of the meeting too. So if you don't understand what someone said, if someone forgets to identify themselves, you have every right to stop and say as the scribe without being on cue, this is the scribe, could someone please tell me who is speaking? And then you also have the right, if you need, just say, I need a minute, and we'll pause. So the facilitator kind of has the right in this space, in my experience, to interrupt, and so does the scribe, because you have the responsibility of capturing what's said. So you can ask for clarifications, you can ask for a pause, you can ask for who's speaking. All of those are very appropriate, and you should feel empowered to do it. But also, I think everyone has a different scribing style. Chris, Chuck, and I all tend to be fairly literal. We tend to type what is said. But a lot of people just get a short gist. So of everything I just said, you might just put, Rochelle, scribe has control. That might be the whole gist that you get. And sometimes it's a matter of shortening certain points, but then tying in, shortening certain points, but then trying to catch a couple details that are really important. Did that answer your question?
No, it does. Thank you. I might have folks repeat who they are when I'm still learning the voices.
Absolutely. And we get new people, and then we lose track of the voices as well. So
I will go ahead and add to that, that if I'm able to type and I was able to, while typing, keep up with the conversation of the sentences for which I've fallen behind. And if I feel that they have been meaningful sentences to document, I will do as Rochelle had said. I will go ahead and pause the meeting and say, I missed a certain point that you, John Folliott, were making or whatever. What was your point? And then I'll catch up. If it felt like the conversation wasn't particularly meaningful and that it wasn't really advocating a particular point, like we started talking about how to add a calendar or event for a particular one and that wasn't relevant to the meeting, I might not worry about capturing that.
Rain, you're on cue.
I'm curious how I've heard that sometimes things shouldn't, or we might ask to not have things in the record itself. How is that handled?
Usually if that's being handled or if that happens, somebody makes a request to have a conversation off record, at which point the scribe stops scribing until they're told it's back on the record.
Okay.
It's not something we try to do often. Go ahead, Chuck.
Yeah, I will say this. One of the things that sort of tripped me up when attempting this is when they don't say we're back on the record. That happens a lot. They'll start getting into meaningful conversation again, inadvertently or advertently. And I wasn't aware that it's supposed to be back on the record. So if I'm scribe and if they go off the record, I will make a point to say, tell me when it goes back on the record. And if the conversation sounds like it's getting meaningful again on a different topic, I'll jump in, I'll interrupt, and I'll say, this sounds like this should be on the record. Should I resume scribing?
Okay, thank you.
So if you look at IRC right now, and this is somewhat related, you will see that I have put content in that is indented and not in line with the rest of the content. And this is a command you can use to say things that are not going into the official record. And so it's a / and the word me. I think I forgot to put that in the Excel sheet. So I'm going to add that in here, but so sometimes if you're feeling particularly good at handling the scribe queue, if you don't want to interrupt the meeting going on, you can also put this kind of question that you have into the off record, just like Chuck and Chris, other direction. If I'm sorry, if that was a /, please use the other way. It should be the other slash. Perfect.
Oh yeah, it has the asterisk next to it.
Right. And that just means that does not go into the official record. Yep.
Okay. If anyone needs help with that, holler out. That's a good way to also ask questions and continue work. Now, sometimes we mistype things. Brian? Did you have a question?
Yep, sorry, I found the mute button. So I was using, I'm on a Mac, and I was using like dictation on Word just to see how well it was capturing the dialogue. And it felt like it was doing a fairly good job of being able to capture that. And then I could turn that dictation on and off, copy, paste it in. Does anybody use that? Have anybody seen either success or issues with that approach?
I'm not aware of someone trying it, Chuck.
This sounds a lot like live transcribing, which we do try to do for our meetings. We'll turn on Zoom's native capability to transcribe. As far as transcribing just locally, whatever tool or mechanism is in place, I don't think we have a lot of experience trying that, but there are some caveats with doing that. It seems as though the live transcribing of any mechanism has problems identifying the speaker. And we found that can be challenging when the whatever the live transcribing tool says, one person said a point when it was really somebody else who had said a point. So it's not something that we've explored much, and it might be a way of assisting an individual to scribe. I wouldn't recommend it as a default position though.
Okay, yeah, I think that's helpful. I was looking at, someone mentioned about getting behind and being able to try and remember what was said. So I was just experimenting with how Word's dictation capability was working, and it felt like it was doing a fairly decent job. And I like the idea of being able to go back and, just copy the main point that was being made. And so I just wanted to make sure that that's going to be a reasonable approach to do this, because I'm not the fastest typer. So I wanted to see if there's a way that I could still capture everything that was said, but be able to go ahead and really make sure that I'm accurately scribing the meeting.
If you would
Yeah,
like
just
to
don't.
go ahead.
Sorry, no, you go ahead.
So say if you'd like to practice that to make sure it's working for you, I think let us know and we'll set up a time to just try that out.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, the only thing I would encourage you to do is so far, I'm not saying specific to you or the individuals. W3C has set up a policy regarding the live transcribing using Zoom that we're not supposed to save those. So I would encourage you, not saying that the policy says in your case to not do so, but I would encourage you to not save the live transcribed record.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just, yeah.
Yeah, it's more of a way to ensure that I can
Right.
keep current with the conversation and be able to go back and kind of capture any key point that was said, but not have a digital record of that dialogue.
Yeah, I think it's a reasonable thing to try out. I don't know someone else who's done it, but I think it makes sense as an accommodation to keep up with the scribing.
Well, thank you.
I did also want to say that if you want to engage in a conversation and you're the scribe, you should feel very comfortable. We encourage you to feel comfortable saying, "Can someone scribe for me?" And you've probably heard that in meetings. And one of the facilitators or chairs or someone else will jump in and cover while you're speaking and then pass it back to you, just so you have an opportunity to fix it. So tied to that, Chuck's pointing into the next step of this, which is fixing mistakes. We do mistype things. So I have intentionally mistyped something here. And to fix it, I'm going to put S / Chris. Thank you. I'm going to pause. Chris, thank you so much for dropping by. It's good to see you. So to fix it, I'm going to put S / and then I'm going to put in the word I want to fix, and then I'm going to do another / and I'm going to put in the word I want to change it to. So I'd like you all to try that. Type something wrong and then just go ahead and try fixing it. You can fix whole sentences, you can fix whole paragraphs this way. What can happen though is if more people have typed while you type, and as a result, you're going to catch the most recent example of what's in between those first two slashes. So if someone else has typed it in the middle, it's going to go fix that and not fix the one you intend to fix. My apologies. So just be aware in that case, you need to make whatever you're fixing as specific as possible to make sure you're hopping back to that problem.
And I want to emphasize that if conversations are going slowly enough for you to take the time to correct any misspelling that you may have done, you're certainly welcome to do so, but you should not feel required to misspell or to respell a misspelled word at all. That's we're not asking you to scribe for your perfection. And if the act of correcting is going to overload you to the point where you might be losing some content, don't correct.
Yeah, it is something. Some scribes will finish up the meeting and go back and fix their work. Some scribes will, if it's like a two-part meeting, they'll fix it afterwards. I rarely go back and fix my errors. I just assume that they're pretty minor unless there is a major mistake. Also, sometimes people help you by fixing your errors. Some scribes find that very distracting and very difficult, and you should feel empowered to let people know that. Like if you are, like particularly the Koga meeting, but also AG, if you are scribing and it is hard for you to scribe because other people are fixing the typos, just let people know that up front. And that also, it's just fine that we can, because it can be very distracting for some people. It's
So
done with the best of intentions. But
is the IRC accessible?
I believe it is. I believe it's straight text-based and screen readers work with it.
In our other calls, we have a number of individuals who I know use screen readers. George, I don't remember his last name, Yanina, who seem to be well-versed in being able to actually use the IRC channel, at least a web version of it or their own client version, and scribe simultaneously. So I believe that it is sufficiently accessible.
Okay, so there is another command, and I'm filling out this in some ways as we go, but there's another command that you can use to just see the minutes at any point in time. And so some people use this when they come into a meeting just to see what is going on. This does not create the permanent minutes. The make minutes is a generated set of minutes for anyone to look at up to the point when that command was run. So if you want to, I didn't make logs world, hang on.
While you're doing that, the benefit to this is if somebody comes into a meeting after it's already begun and they're coming in late, like 10, 15 minutes or half past, they can use this to refresh what it is that has occurred that they have missed.
So this also can provide you a way to look back over the meeting if that's something you want to do. So that is another command to know. It's also on that sheet under basic scribing. And the last two things to kind of pay attention to is often chairs or facilitators will ask the scribe to either add a topic or make a resolution. And so to add a topic, you put the word topic : in all capital letters. And in the AG meeting, for example, we create topics that are subsections of our survey. So we usually have an agenda item for the entire survey, and each question is its own topic. But you may be in a meeting and somebody, gets on cue and brings up a completely new point, and the meeting decides to follow that. In order to build the meeting minutes well, you want to put that topic in ahead of time, and then people can find it a little easier when they're going back and reviewing it. So yes, please feel free to try topic and just add some kind of new topic here. And very similarly, we can often ask for resolutions to be recorded, and that's all caps resolution : and then whatever the actual resolution was. And very often, at least in AG, we will draft the resolution and put that up so you can just copy and paste it. Feel free to try those out. And then if you want to make the minutes and see what they look like in the minutes, you can do that.
And what
So the
I've done
command,
there is go ahead.
sorry, the command is all caps resolution.
It is. Oh, and interestingly, it's not showing up in the minutes, the new version of the minutes, until maybe we make them final.
I don't think it does until we make them final. Then I
Okay.
think that it conglomerates the resolutions, in its section.
Okay. So we'll do that at the end.
So I have a question. So I used the tab feature for the RSS agent, and to add the colon. Does it need to be the comma or the colon for make minutes?
I think it needs to be the comma. I
'Cause I
think the
typed-
one you're seeing below that was to reigns. And the reason it's doing the colon is because RRS agent is a member of this channel. So it pulled that up as if that person had talked or spoken.
So I'm seeing right below mine on minute 12:37
hmm
that I typed it in with make minutes, and the RSS agent replied back, I've made the request to generate minutes with the colon.
Oh, with Brian. And it's very possible. Why don't you try it one more time and we will see it, because you're right, your name is after that. Yep, looks like it does. So I will tell you, I'm going over the simplified commands. There are many variations and different options on how to do the same thing. So it looks like that is another way to do this. The comma should work as well.
Awesome. Yeah, it's just with the tab feature that's very quick shortcut to get that pulled up.
Absolutely. It's good to learn something new. So most of you have already kind of done queue management here. So, Q plus and Q minus, but there's another option that I think we're going to start using more in AG, and that is question plus. And so what question plus does is when somebody comes up with a question, comes up with something that they want to ask, but we don't necessarily want to go down that path, we can actually add it as a question for later review, and it will be added to the end of the minutes and we can come back to it at a future time. And so I think you're going to see that coming up more often.
How do you get the list of questions? I don't remember that command.
I would have to go back and look.
Yeah, well, we'll see. It's new for us, so we're learning about it.
But I did want to give you a heads up in case someone asked you to do that and note a question. That's the command that does it. All right. What other questions do you all have about scribing before I hop into meeting management here?
Oh, Heavy, this is really informative. Thank you.
Okay, so you also, I should have said, at the end of a meeting, you may be asked to make the final minutes and post them. The final minute generation is this, RS agent generate minutes instead of make minutes. And that should produce the final, and just you make sure everything is working before you take that link. So just be aware there's slight differences between generate minutes and make minutes, at least as I understand it. Okay. So I am going to close this meeting down on IRC, not on Zoom, but I'm going to walk you through how you actually run a meeting for the next.
I just have one last question. So
Absolutely.
you said it generates minutes. Where does it generate those minutes to? Is that the URI that is listed there? Or
It should be, yes. And it looks like it's the same. I wonder if those two have become the same now. One of the things about this is it all kind of moves and changes over time. And we
Yeah,
had a series of changes recently, so I'm seeing that looks very similar now.
the topic isn't actually working either. The topic command, because I'm not seeing any of the topics we added.
No,
I
not
am.
either.
I am if we scroll down.
Those are diagnostics. I mean, I don't know if those are. That's it fixing the issues, right?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure I agree. I'm not sure quite what's going on with that. It shouldn't be
It's
doing it, but I know
the
some of the
topic or the-
changes. Not everything we've been writing has been captured. Of course, we're all typing topic, but we haven't claimed scribe either. Let me see this.
So Rochelle, again, with resolutions, I don't know that the capital topic gets rendered until the meeting is closed, but I don't know that for certain.
Oh, we'll see when we close the meeting.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
I'm
go-
seeing, I'm seeing topics listed
Interesting.
Ah,
I'm-
and
good.
resolutions.
Yeah, I am as well. And I see a table of contents of the topics at the top.
Yep.
That's awesome. Okay, it does.
What
work.
I don't see are the questions. So if you did a question, I don't see it.
Well, you're
Yeah,
seeing
there
more
are-
than I am, so.
Yeah, there are two questions, and I get where it's new for us. We don't know how the questions are managed in the notes or the minutes or anything, and it looks like they're not recorded in the minutes.
Mhm.
So obviously we get questions too, and this is why we check the minutes at the end before we close the meeting out. And often we circle back with staff and have them fix things if there's an issue. But this is the general. We would still ask, even if it's not quite working, to go ahead and put the topic and the resolutions in and track those so that we can then pull them out later, even if we're fixing it after the fact.
So Rachel, you mentioned something about bots or whatever. Is that the RRS agent and Zycam?
It is.
Thank you.
And so that's why we start those commands out in general with those. Anything else?
I will add one thing that when, we've gone through a couple of meeting management commands and such, when I run a call, I try to get all that lined up ahead of the call so that whoever volunteers to scribe can focus strictly on the scribing, the recording of what people say, so that they don't have to, worry about, oh no, I should do this. Oh no, I should do that. And I try that. The one thing we do need the scribe to do is the resolutions. I try to line up the topics ahead of time and such. And only the scribe has the means of doing the resolution in a manner whereby it gets recorded and highlighted
Mm.
in the generated minutes. But at least then we try to get the resolution so that even if we're proposing a resolution, the scribe can copy and paste the resolution and then make it easy for the scribe.
And that's a great
So
point,
we're all
Chuck. The different,
all our chairs. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say different facilitators and chairs have different requests. Some will ask you to take up items, and I'm going to show you that in a minute, but most will handle the actual taking up and closing and moving between agenda topics and leave you to just scribe. But it's good to know how to do that because sometimes you have a facilitator that will say, can you take up the next item? And I'll show you that in a minute.
Could you, I don't know, could you share the link where we sign up to scribe?
Absolutely.
I think I ran across that at one point in time, but I haven't.
Joyfully.
You want to?
And do you want the one for AG?
Yes.
Yes, please.
All right, that should be that one. Are there
Thank
any
you.
other, many of the task forces also have scribe lists to sign up as well.
Perfect.
I think so. And this is a wiki, so if you, it's right now, it's only going to the 27th till tomorrow, and we need scribes. So great chance to practice tomorrow.
Yeah.
But feel free to add dates, just add the other Tuesdays in and put your name next to them. Don't feel constrained if the date's not on the list yet. So. All right. So I'm going to end this meeting for a minute and just go over the meeting commands, just in case you need them, but also in case you ever end up facilitating a meeting. I won't take too long on this, but what I've done now is I put Zachem, end meeting. I would never do that before I generated the minutes once, because I would always want to make sure the minutes were working, just as a note. Some chairs will do that. They'll just end the meeting. But it can be a problem if for some reason the minutes get hung up and don't get fixed correctly. And so with that in mind, I'm just going to walk through setting up and actually running a meeting from scratch. So the first thing you would do when you came into the channel, if you were going to do this, is you would invite Zachem. So you're inviting the bots. Now this bot's already all here. And the second thing you would do is invite RRS agent. And to do that, I'm going to just type the commands in here. They're on the sheet I sent you. So that would be the first one, the invite Zachem. And then to invite RSS agent, it would be, if you don't invite the bots in at the beginning, all of the scribing and other challenges are not going to, or things that are happening in the resolution of the topics, none of that's really going to get recorded because the meeting isn't turned on. Once the bots are in, then you can go ahead and start the meeting. And that's Zachem, start meeting. And so, let's see, I actually think I need to. When you start the meeting, it will make a request for the meeting title unless it's pre-programmed in the channel. And so this channel doesn't have a pre-programmed title. So you're going to put meeting : scribing. And I'm going to call this one running a meeting. And then the next thing you want to do is you want to make the logs world. And so if you ever are asked to do this, you can literally go down the sheet I sent you in commands for the first few commands. And so once that's done, you are set up to run the meeting. Now, usually ahead of meetings, you have an agenda. That agenda typically has some topic and a link. So when you are setting the meeting up, you will put in each agenda item with the word agenda plus. And that's going to note it. So why don't everybody add an agenda item? So agenda plus, and then after the space, something, some title of an agenda. Perfect. So now write agenda ? And then you will see the agenda. We're going to see it a lot if everybody types it, but that's okay. So then once you have an agenda, and let's just go down, Brian, type in, and I'll put this in the chat, type in Zachem, take up item 1. And so it should look like that. Now that's interesting. I tried to me that, but it didn't do that. So just, yeah, go ahead and try take up item 2, Brian.
Me worked for me.
Think you need the comma in this case.
So I've meted in there, but that's what the.
I did too, Chuck, and it still took it up.
Oh.
So that's why I'm trying to. Yep. So here is another trick to scribing, Brian. Hit the up arrow. So you missed the M at the end of Zachem. And if you hit the up arrow, it will go through the previous things you've typed, and you can just fix something quickly that way. It's another way to, somebody saying something very repetitive, you can pull up previous commands or previous content. Beautiful. Let's see, Juanita, can you take up item 3?
Yeah, let me do that. Oh, did that not work?
You need a comma instead of the colon. Again, if you hit the up arrow and change it, perfect. Okay.
Oh, you can hit it the up arrow and change?
Yep. So if you hit the up arrow, it will
Oh.
pre-populate with your previous content and let you change. All right. And then Karen, can you take up item 4?
Sure.
Great. Rain, try taking up item 5. Fantastic. And Regina, take up item 6.
Michelle, we're going through this agenda much faster than Agwood goes through their agendas.
Oh, obviously, we need to figure out how to speed it up. All right. Fantastic. So I think everybody had a chance to try this. If I missed someone, holler out. There is another command that will pick up an item, and it's Zachem, comma, take up next item. And I'm going to just add another item to the agenda. But if the item, if you have opened and closed an issue like we just did without a certain amount of conversation, Zachem will reject taking up the next item. And so if you put in some, why don't we start with Brian, put in Zachem, comma, take up. Yep, and that's what happens. It says item was just open, and you have to go through this whole challenge to get Zachem to listen to you. And so it is a safer bet to use the Zachem, comma, take up item and then put the number in. And again, often I will just hit the up arrow and then change the number to speed it up a little bit. So this is the one command you would need if a chair said to you, go ahead and take up the next item for us. And you could absolutely try Zachem, take up next item if we've been talking about it a while. But if you get that failure, you have to pick up the number instead. So then there is another command that is useful, which is just Zachem, comma, clear agenda, which if you do, will get rid of your agenda and you can start over. I think I cleared the agenda 4 times last week trying to get it to work. And there are many other IRC commands that are available to you, and that's what those other spreadsheet or other reference sheets are for, and I will send those out after this along with the video. But these are the ones that you need to get through most meetings in most cases. So questions on all of that?
Nope, it's just going to take some practice, I think.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yep.
This is really helpful, though.
Oh, fantastic. And it does take practice. And please feel free to volunteer for as much practice as you would like. All right. Well, in that case, if someone wants to go ahead and generate minutes, that's RRS agent, comma, generate minutes. Okay, and click on that link to make sure it's showing up correctly, which it is. And then you can put Zachem, comma, end meeting. And while everyone will not get to practice it, that is the general gist. And then once that's done, everything is finished. It says to excuse RS agent, but you don't actually have to. It will time out. So it's excused Zachem, but it has not gotten rid of the RS agent bot. And you can see that Zachem's gone over in the participant list on the right.
And all the topics are neatly done and stuff.
Can I ask why it still says draft at the top?
You can ask. I don't have any answer. It very well could be that they are still working on what this looks like, these minutes look like, and it's the draft template. And it could be something else. I don't know for sure.
Okay.
All right. Well, I am going to stop recording.